I've got a question for you, one that's been bouncing around in my mind like a shopping cart with a bad wheel. Can greeblies actually be considered art? At first glance, it feels like an easy yes or no question, but there's a catch. What we choose, how we use it, and the story it tells might be trickier than you think. But maybe, just maybe, I've stumbled on a way to turn our love of sci-fi detail and nerdy obsession into actual hang-it-on-your-wall artwork. So today in the Smuggler's Room, I'll show you awesome geeks how a set of simple tools and strange parts can lead you to an absolutely enjoyable afternoon. And if we're lucky, we can build something out of nothing that might truly represent Greeblie artwork. Now, before we decide if Greeblies belong in a gallery, we have to answer a bigger question. What even is art? At its core, art is imagination expressed through some kind of skill. Simple enough, right? But here's the twist. Art isn't a one-size-fits-all. What sparks wonder for one person might get an eye roll from another. The truth is, human creativity is messy, it's subjective, and it's wildly different from one person to another. And that's exactly what makes it beautiful. So instead of getting lost in the debate of what qualifies, let's strip down to something simple. If the process of creating brings you joy and you love the result, then congratulations, you've made art. No permission required. So let's get started. Now to kick things off, we've got some lovely 040 styrene. The techniques we're going to show you today are those that have been used in model scratch building for many, many years. We're going to break down this build into 3 sections: panelization, greeblification, and colorization. And yes, I'm aware that some of those are not real words. The first step is panelization. This is where we define the larger sections of our exterior shapes, creating basic shapes that fill an area that we'll refine later. For this process, we're using styrene, which in my opinion is a must-have for this type of project. Styrene to me is one of the simplest materials to work with, as cutting it and manipulating the styrene requires little more than a sharp blade. This was a staple material in model shops like Industrial Light and Magic during that nostalgic era when the starships from Star Wars were being built. You can often find multiple sheets of various thicknesses in places like Amazon for under $10. I picked up 2 4-foot by 8-foot sheets from my local supply shop for under $45, and I'm here to tell you that is a lot of styrene. The tools I use are simple and fairly affordable. Some, like this, are unique. This is a nibbler, and you can find it typically for under $20. So I've got this first corner kind of laid out with the styrene. So the next thing we need to do is we need to glue this in place. In order to do that, we are going to need ourselves some adhesive. And we're going to go with some Weld-On 3, as that will weld the plastic and make a tight seal. But we need to put it in something, so we need the bottom of a soda can. So I think we'll use this soda can. What? Oh, this? Yeah, well, this is my Greeblie palette. Okay, so what is a Greeblie palette? This is something I learned about watching Adam Savage. He has several awesome builds using styrene and kitbashing like this one, and we've linked those in the description for you to check out. Now, what Adam mentioned in one of those builds was that many of the model makers from ILM, including himself, would glue down the bottom of a soda can to a piece of cardboard and then use that cardboard as a palette to hold the various Greeblie bits they were using on the project. What I decided I wanted was a bit more from my Greeblie palette. So I over-designed something that was super simple and I made it complex. I loved the idea of my Greeblie palette to be more than functional, but also provide some inspiration in its form as well as the expected functionality while I used it. Oh, and if you're wondering why the use of a bottom of a soda can, it's to hold small amounts of the Weld-On 3. You see, that liquid evaporates very quickly. So if you just opened the bottle and let it sit, you'd waste far more than you would ever use on the project. So this way you add a little at a time and then save as much of the Weld-On as possible. So if you like our over-engineered version of a Greeblie palette and you want one of your own, we've linked the files on our website in the description below. My Greeblie palette here is 3D printed base This piece here is all 3D printed. And then I've got a couple of little features to this. So other than the tin can area here, there's also a trough down here so you can set in your blade. And then I've got a little trough up at the top here for a couple of the brushes that you would use for the weld on. And then obviously in here, there's room if you wanted to add your cutters and a few other tools for scoring and marking the styrene. But then we can lay out our greeblies. I'll show you that here in a bit. There are needle applicators that many model makers use for the weld on, but I prefer a brush. I should use a smaller one as I can clearly see the areas I've painted, but don't worry, the residue from the weld on won't be noticeable once this piece is painted. Now I'm going to use my new metal scribing tool here so that I can actually make some marks on the panels, creating some other dimensionality. So it just gives it just a little bit. See the line there, and then once everything gets painted, that'll pop a little bit more. There is no right or wrong way to lay out your panels. My only suggestion is to break up the shapes, some large, some small, and give spacing between the panels so that you can add other details that we'll show you how to do in a minute. Now you can see some of the lines there, some of the line work. It's a little difficult in this light, but once we spray it, that'll all start to pop. Now we just need to populate more of the rest of this. I want to take a moment quickly to give a big thanks to our amazing Patreon supporters. Each and every one of these people helps contribute to keep the Smuggler's Room videos coming. You give us the support and the motivation to keep creating content, and we cannot thank you enough. If you're interested in supporting the Smuggler's Room via Patreon, you can find links in the description below. Thank each and every one of you for contributing and being part of this community. So we've got this first round done. Plenty of panels. We've got some scoring going on. We've got one little Greeblie detail. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some 020 styrene, some thinner stuff, and I'm going to build up levels around here. And once all that's done, then we can start getting into some of the fun detail. Now I'm going to use this cool little tool right here, and I'm going to take a piece of styrene and I'm going to create me some little tiny greeblies with this. Little greeblies like this. Now I got all my little square greeblies all set and ready to go. And this is an old trick. If you've ever seen Adam Savage or anyone else that's worked with styrene like this, you take a really sharp X-Acto blade, poke it into the little piece of styrene you want to work with, and then the glue, you just set it right down, glues in place. Alright, so now you can see all the little square greeblies popped on all over this, and now we get to move on to more enjoyable pieces. The next phase of this is going through and doing a little kit bashing. Essentially where you take model kits, and we're taking different parts and pieces out of these model kits and using them on our project. This is from a Star Wars Legion very expensive model. However, my local hobby shop, when I asked if they had any returns that were damaged, this was one of them. So I got it super cheap. It's missing a whole bunch of parts, but the ones it does have, they're pretty slick. Heat vents and all kinds of little bits and pieces, some extra panelization, that sort of thing. That'll fit nicely, what we're doing. That's got some cool detail to it, and a little area we can run some stuff up underneath. Okay, we have a nice little assortment now of all these different parts and pieces. Now we can start laying these in and then sand any of them that need a little attention. All right, now we can start putting these in place. First spot I'm going to work on is here. I found a nice little bit. It's got some detail to it. I'm going to get this kind of positioned something like this. Then maybe we can use a combination of these little guys here, and we can build off of that. One note, the Weld-On 3 works wonderfully when adhering the small model parts to the styrene, and the chemical reaction actually melts the plastic, or a better way to say it, it welds the plastic together. And now with all these steps in place and all the details added, it's time to give this a little primer coat. It's during this step where all of your hard work pays off. This is where the magic happens. The traditional gray primer suddenly makes your mashup of styrene and model parts come together. The only step left is to install this into our frame and then take a good long look. Now I chose to leave my piece simple, gray primer and nothing more. But you could take yours a step further and give it a full paint job, weather it, blaster marks, and other great storytelling ideas. So, did we do it? Did we create art? You bet we did. Maybe not something you'd find sitting next to the Mona Lisa in the Louvre, but I would sure as hell hang it on the wall in my home. I'll tell you something else too. I'm gonna be doing a lot more of these. I don't remember the last time I enjoyed an afternoon in the shop as much as I did with this project. We put a list together of all the tools and materials in the description below for you because we really would love to see you give this a try. And when you do, make sure you let us know. And we'll see you the next time we build something out of nothing.